So post-merger, it's a very conscious decision, depending on what role are you going to be playing as an entrepreneur in the future, post that merger. My name is Mohammed Azab. I'm an Endeavor entrepreneur since 2012. I'm the founder of Grinta, a B2B e-commerce platform for the pharmaceutical sector across Africa. To make a decision to merge or not merge with any other entity, it's not an easy decision, right? You've been building this business for the last 5, 10 years, whatever that is, and you reach a certain point. I think you have to ask yourself a number of questions. And one, I'd say, what's your personal motivation here? What is this to you? So the biggest motivation for me was financial. Second was creating a precedent for the ecosystems. And third was to create a much bigger market for others to follow, hopefully. So the second question I asked myself, why should I go ahead with that merger or not, is am I ready for it? Because at a certain point you can grow a business and you can become bored, and it's fine. We don't have to always talk about everything is great. It's not great all the time. But you can reach a certain point where you become an obstacle to that business, and you can find somebody else who can take it further. So I was ready to let go, and it's a very hard decision when you build something and we have like 1,000+ employees. We serve about 500,000 patients. So it's not easy to build all that and just let it go. But I thought I was an obstacle to that business. I've built it to a certain point, but that merger, the other entrepreneur would take it further. So I had to ask the very hard question to myself, am I ready for it? And I think the answer was clear, I'm ready to let go. And the third question I asked, does that help? Does that further increase the impact that we've built, and does it help the ecosystem? I think coming together makes it a much bigger play. The idea of a merger, again, it multiplies the impact. What you can do on your own can only take you a long way, but the idea of doing a merger and asking yourself, am I gonna multiply my impact? I think there's so many synergies in place. You can have a tech team. Let's say if it's in LATAM, for example, you have a tech team in Argentina and you're serving the whole of Latin America. You can have a tech team in Indonesia and you're serving the whole of Southeast Asia. So the idea of coming together and building and merging and building much bigger entities. So these entities, instead of competing on a local level, you can actually compete on a regional level, and then you can compete on a global level. So the idea of coming together, it obviously multiplies the impact. But again, it has to go with the motivation of the entrepreneurs behind that business and the vision. And you reach a certain point where you've built systems, policies, teams. Sometimes you build them very good in a way that if you're not expanding, you're going to lose the talent. You're going to lose what you've built. So post-merger, it's a very conscious decision, depending on what role are you going to be playing as an entrepreneur in the future, post that merger. So if you're the person, he or she, going to lead the business as CEO, then it becomes a much tougher play, because suddenly you have a bigger market, you have different regions, and you have a different type of beast that was created in that post-merger. So you also have to unlearn certain things. You have to reinvent yourself as a CEO and lead different teams in different countries and different cultures. That requires a lot of wisdom, it requires a lot of patience. It needs to be done also very smartly. So the role as a CEO of the post-merger, you need to reinvent yourself. And you need to do it what you used to do in the past, you need to do it 5 or 10 times better. In conclusion, when you have a merger in place, I really believe you need to be very true to yourself and ask yourself the very hard questions. And that has to do with personal motivation, has to do with what you want to build and what you want your impact to be. And are you ready? Is the company ready? Does it make sense for the ecosystem? All these questions, and I'm sure there's more, but I think the key here is that you have to be very true to yourself and do the right thing. And sometimes you might want to merge, but you still want to lead, but you're not the right person to lead it, and you'll be an obstacle. I think you have to be very true to yourself and really dig deep and take the very hard decisions.